Welcome back to the book club, and today we're gonna read 5 Last Acts. Just to let you know, I'm not gonna read the whole PDF all at once because I have read the most important chapter for me in my older video, but I cannot watch it on YouTube anymore. I don't know why. Maybe because it involves suicide or something like that. Anyway, I'm doing this because there's a comment on that video that the link doesn't work. So first I'm gonna go through all the pages so that you don't need to go to the link anymore. You can just pause this video and read. How great is that, right? Okay, so now I'm gonna go through it and I'm gonna pause like enough seconds so that you can pause. Let's go! 5 Last Acts cover. The safe and dignified ways that people use to end their own lives when faced with unbearable and unrelievable suffering. Chris Jocka. Dedicated to Virginia Woolf. And all the contents are here. Take a look. And the most important one for me, and the one that I encourage, is Helium. Because, you know, it is non-pain. How great is that? You can die with no pain. Just spend a little money on Helium and then you'll be free. Woohoo! And if you are in Thailand, I know where to buy it. I already bought one. If you're interested, just comment, okay? Foreword on page 7. Introduction. here it is. My most favorite chapter. Helium. And you see here, no unpleasant side effects. How great is that? Woohoo! Hail Helium! You see? And actually I got only one tank, but it's taller than this one. It's like around this tall. Yeah. And you can die so peacefully. How great is that? I cannot express how great this is. And thank you, Chris, for this great chapter. Thank you so much. see here, helium is entirely free of discomfort and suitable in most situations. While you have the freedom to put all the equipment together in advance, store it securely, and have access to it when the time comes. So, when you're ready to go, you can just do it. How easy is that? Oh, I cannot stress enough how great helium is, okay? I can't, 'cause it is so great. You see here, death by breathing helium is caused by displacing the oxygen that the brain needs to stay alive. Unlike carbon dioxide, it does not cause hyperventilation, rapid breathing, and the associated discomfort. One of the great advantages of helium over carbon monoxide as a means of self-deliverance is that it is easily available. Party balloon kits available by mail order include canisters of helium. And you have death just at your fingertip. You can just order it. But you need to be careful about the percentages of how pure it is. You need, I don't remember exactly what it is, maybe 90, maybe 95. We will go through it later, because I think I will read on helium, and the rest of the book, if you want to read, it's all here. Alright. Alright, we finished flipping through the PDF, so now we are gonna read on Helium. Woohoo! Alright, let's do it! Page 35, Helium. Story, what you need, main features, general description, what is the evidence for helium, how quickly does it work, are there any unpleasant side effects, checklist, references and diagram. Frank's story, a typical scenario. Frank had made his preparations well ahead of time. In the garage was a cupboard that was always kept locked. He and Miriam had always had their own hobbies, part of their lives they kept separate, and no one ever asked what it was that he had behind that door. Miriam knew he believed in self-determination, in the right to end life at a time when it felt right. One evening, he had brought the subject up over dinner. I'm going to this exit shop next Thursday, he mentioned casually. He had been a member for many years now. You have a good day out, she replied. You might want to stay over. I'm playing bridge that night anyway. Frank enjoyed that workshop. It was not only a chance to find out the details he needed to know, but he was able to chat to like-minded people. The next day, he discussed some of the ideas he had formed with his wife, so that she would not be shocked if the fateful day ever arrived. He also wrote a last wishes statement that he could leave in the event of his death, saying how everything was by his own hand and that it was what he had wanted. Then he went on the internet and ordered what he needed. It was easy to find companies that supplied party balloons and the disposable helium tanks to fill them. He ordered 2 just to make sure. Then he made a shopping list. Plastic tubing, some hose clips, a T-junction connector. He checked in the garage to make sure he had a flat screwdriver. In the kitchen were some strong scissors he would use to cut the tubing. The first hardware store he went to didn't have any pulley tubing, but the larger one on the edge of town supplied him with everything he needed. It was all in the home brewing equipment section. The following week, it was Miriam's turn to play bridge at her sister's. So Frank set aside the evening to put the equipment together and familiarize himself with it. The tanks of helium were quite light. No, it's not the case for my tank. Sorry, it's just so heavy. But you know what? Is in my room every single day is my peace of mind. Okay, back to the content. The tanks of helium were quite light and could be lifted with one hand, but they would still need somewhere to be stored. So he cleared out the large garage cupboard. He unscrewed the valve from each tank, then checked the tap on each, releasing just a small spurt of gas so he knew how much strength was needed to open and close it. Then he fitted a length of tubing to each. He had bought more than he needed in case he made a mistake, but it was quite straightforward. He connected the tubes from each tank by means of the T-junction. They were good tight fit, leaving the third opening for the tube that would go to a plastic bag. When he had been in the store, Frank hadn't been quite sure if the polytubing he chose would be a good fit for the outlet on the helium tanks. He had bought the diameter of tubing and matching T-junction that seemed the closest, but also purchased half a dozen hose clips to make them extra secure if need be. Frank had obtained a sturdy, transparent plastic bag, and he fixed the end of a long piece of tubing to the inside of it using adhesive tape. This tube was long enough to lead comfortably from the head height. When he was seated in a nearby chair to the T-junction. Before making the final connection, Frank tasted the bag for comfort. He had a couple of sturdy rubber bands, which he fitted loosely around his neck. Then placed the bag over his head and tucked the edges under the rubber bands. It wasn't a tight fit. It didn't need to be, as I would have to escape from the bag as the gas pushed it out. He checked that the last piece of tubing, the one attached to the inside of the bag, was plenty long enough to easily reach the T connection. He also checked he could reach the helium taps from his seat. Then he removed the bag and the rubber bands. When it came to the final part of his dress rehearsal, Frank knew he must take care. Helium acts very quickly, so he could not open the taps while the bag was over his head and all the tubes connected, but he had gone through all the separate stages. The taps worked fine. The bag was comfortable in use. He particularly liked the clear plastic, and the tubes were all the correct length. He made the final connection, fitting the tube from the bag to the T-junction securely, then carefully pushed the assembled equipment into the garage cupboard and locked it. Each year or so, Frank would reread the literature, get the equipment out, and remind himself of how he would use it. One year, he found that, with advancing age, he had less strength in his hands for turning the gas taps. Always keen on gadgets, he and Miriam had a couple of devices for turning taps with ease. The one he liked had a good firm handle with an easy grip. It fitted over any tap, like the small one on the helium tank, and made it easier to turn them. It was easy to get a spare one and keep it. I think the word "in" is missing here. It should be keep it in the cupboard. It was some years later when Frank realized the time was getting near. He and Miriam had discussed dying many times, and understood each other's wishes. Under English law, even if a person ends their life with their own hand, a loved one cannot be in the room at the same time. Such a bad law, isn't it? On the day, Miriam spent the afternoon walking in the park. When he was alone, Frank pulled the equipment out and got himself comfortable. It took a bit longer these days, as it was less easy to get about than it had been. He had only had a very light breakfast, wanting to leave his departed body in a way that would cause minimum amaze. He sat in the shower for a little while, contemplating his decision, and, with some of his favorite Chopin playing softly in the background, a book of his favorite poetry lay in his lap. He also knew that, although this was the perfect opportunity, he could change his mind if he wanted to. But he didn't. His illness was too far advanced, and at his last checkup, he had asked enough explicit questions to know that even if he could be kept comfortable in hospital, it was not possible to prevent further deterioration. He left a last loving note to his wife, and also a note to whoever it might concern, explaining his actions, how they were entirely his own and well considered. A book of poetry rested on his lap. He put the last nocturne on repeat, then placed the rubber bands around his neck, the bag over his head, and tucked the edges under the rubber bands. As the gentle piano music rose, Frank reached across and turned on both helium taps quickly in succession. Within seconds, he experienced a light-headed floating sensation that as he started to faint. The last thing his eyes took in were a couple of lines from Walt Whitman. And that's it for the story. So, let's look at what you need: a tank of helium, or preferably two. It's just about 45 pounds each from Particle Supply companies, and some polytubing, an equal T connector, 5 hose clamps, a screwdriver to fit the clamps, some fairly sturdy scissors to cut the polytubing, a sturdy plastic bag, adhesive tape, and rubber bands. Explaining each item. For helium, you can find companies on the internet by searching for helium balloons, or in yellow pages under headings such as parties or balloons. As companies change from time to time, there is little point in giving addresses, but they are certainly not difficult to find. If you order by credit card over the internet, it also avoids the need to speak to anyone personally, but these companies generally are not suspicious of people buying kits of helium and balloons. Some companies have to produce disposable tanks which are lightweight and sold, and larger, heavier tanks for bigger parties that are only rented. Buy the disposable ones. They will be sent by courier. When the tanks arrive, they have a valve to make it easier to attach balloons while inflating them. On all the tanks I have come across, this valve can simply be unscrewed. But if this isn't the case, you need to remove it forcibly. Once the valve is off, the helium can be released from the tank simply by opening and closing the tank. Next, polytubing. This is sold for various purposes, including home brewing, aquariums, and garden water systems. It comes in various diameters, and you need some that will fit fairly snugly over the outlet of the helium tank. The first time I bought them, I didn't want to walk around the home and garden store carrying helium tanks and hadn't measured it, so I judged it as closely as possible and bought 2 different diameters and matching T-connectors. When I got back, I found one was a good tight fit, but needed a bit of pressure to fit, whereas the slightly larger one would need hose clips to secure. Next item, an equal T-connector. This is simply a hard plastic piping connector with 3 outlets. It's sold at the same place as the tubing, so you can get a T-connector of the right diameter made specifically to fit. Next item, 5 hose clips. If the tubing is a good fit, you will need these, but if it is even slightly loose, they are a good precaution. You place them on the tubing before you fit the tubes over the outlet or T-connector, then tighten them with a screwdriver. If you think you might want them, maybe get slightly more than you need in case you damage one. They can be slightly fiddly to tighten. Someone at a workshop suggested using strong adhesive tape to secure the tubes once they were fitted. If you do this, do check it from time to time in case the tape has deteriorated and needs to be replaced. The same goes for any tape holding the tubing to the bag. Next item, plastic bag. The bag you use with helium does not have to be very large. It is simply a way of ensuring the helium stays around your mouth and nostrils for a few moments. A steady one will ensure you don't accidentally damage it on the day. A transparent one is pleasant as you can see out and looks less morbid to those finding you. The bag is very different in size to the one usually used for the plastic bag and drugs method. Next items, adhesive tape and rubber bands. Tape is needed to prevent the smooth polytubing from slipping out of the bag. Rubber bands for securing the bag in this method should be sturdy and quite large. The bag does not need a tight fit around the neck, and the bands are simply to keep it in place, using 2 guards against breakage. Main features of helium. Helium provides a totally painless and reliable way to end one's life. Some preparation is needed, as well as basic skills and physical mobility to put the equipment together. Additionally, it requires a safe place to store the assembled kit until time of need and sufficient privacy to put it into effect. In the unlikely event that the person was disturbed and rescued at a critical moment after losing consciousness, some brain damage could have occurred. As with any other method of asphyxiation, such as drowning, so make sure you won't be disturbed. I will make sure about that when my time comes. Next, general description. Helium gas is released into a small bag over the head, displacing the air inside the bag. Breathing continues normally, but the lack of oxygen means the brain is rapidly starved and shuts down, causing death. The presence of helium in the body, for instance in post-mortem, is very difficult to detect. Unconsciousness is swift, and there is little discomfort from the carbon dioxide buildup that would normally occur from use of a plastic bag alone. What is the evidence for helium? Helium is an odorless, tasteless, colorless, non-toxic gas that is lighter than air and fairly readily available. The helium method was developed by researchers in Canada and the United States and has become an increasingly common method for choice in rational suicide or self-deliverance over recent years. It is impossible to survive without oxygen, and helium simply provides a way of displacing oxygen while simultaneously providing a comfortable environment. How quickly does it work? Loss of consciousness occurs very rapidly, as with any other method of asphyxiation such as drowning, choking, or hanging, though without the unpleasantness of those methods. Inert gas is used by vets for putting animals to sleep. In experiments, animals like dogs, cats, rabbits, mink, chickens showed little or no evidence of distress from inert gas asphyxiation, become unconscious after 1 to 2 minutes, and die after about 3 to 5 minutes. Make sure you will not be disturbed for 30 minutes, just to be sure. Are there any unpleasant side effects? No! None known. Woohoo! Such a great thing, right? I don't know who to thank because it's just in the air, right? Oh, well, I will thank Chris for this book. Obviously. Checklist. Check that assembled equipment is in good order and that you can operate the helium tank taps. You should be familiar with that action, so you can turn them easily, quickly, and to an extent that achieves a steady flow rather than sudden high-pressure gas. Check that you will not be disturbed. Leave a note for whoever finds you explaining your last act. Exposure to atmospheres containing greatly reduced oxygen, increased helium, can bring about unconsciousness without warning. For the sake of those who may find you, ensure the room is well ventilated. Variations on the method: instead of using a plastic bag, include use of a gas delivery mask. such as used in hospitals, or a sealed tube tent. If an oxygen mask is used, this is designed to mix the gas with air, so must be modified. Nitrogen or any other inert gas could be used instead of helium, but is harder to obtain. Rubber tubing could also be used instead of polytubing. Body bags or mountain survival bags, some with clear view panes, are also adaptable options and can be purchased online. References: Helium data and safety tips, Western West Winds gas control technology, www.westwinds.com, Gilson T, Parks Bay, Porterfield C, Suicide with Inert Gases, Addendum to Final Exit, MJ Forensic Map Puzzle, 2003, Step 24-3, page 306 to 308. Reports on 7 fatalities in Tucson, Asia, throughout an 18-month period. What are BC persons of starch linked to victim and martins? RCMP chemist testifies. Times Colonist newspaper, Tuesday, October 26, 2004. Glass at Snyder F. Webster E. The rate of decline in resistance to anoxia of rabbits, dogs, and guinea pigs from the onset of viability to adult life. MJ Physiol, 1944, 140, page 609 to 615. Heron R. Hall P. Fitch J. Nitrogen inhalation as a method of euthanasia in dogs. MJ Vet Race, 1978, 39, page 189 to 991. No, 989 to 991. Stone G. Suicide and attempted suicide. Methods and consequences. Carroll and Graf, 2001. Extra information. You may want to read the sections on asphyxia in the appendix to get an even fuller understanding of the physical process. And here you can see how you will die. And actually, you can just lie down, but, well, it's your choice whether to die sitting up or lying down. I don't think it really matters anyway. Well, maybe it matters, like, maybe you want to sleep like lying down in your comfortable bed and die. Your choice. Oh, and that's it for helium. Should we read the appendix next on asphyxiation? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, here is the appendix. Alright, and where is asphyxiation? Where is asphyxiation? Oh, it's here, right? Yeah, I think it's here. Oh, let's check how long we've been streaming, okay? If it's more than 30 minutes, I think you can read it yourself. Because what I'm interested in is helium, and I have read all about it. And I have also provided you all the pages in this book. Let's see. Oh, it's already 49 minutes. Alright. I think that's it for today. We will continue on another book next time. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Bye bye.